Mac,
So
what is
we'll have
ACE?
assembly. ACE is Accelerated Christian Education. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's now
a
changed to
system.
AEE. So it's a system,
System.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's actually
Yeah.
a program. So Accelerated Christian Education is a program.
Yeah.
It's an educational program. But what one of the words that we also use is it's
Yeah.
personalized system of instruction. So each learner is
Yeah.
on their own track. They are also learning at their own level, at
Yeah.
their own speed. They accelerate. That's where the word
Yeah.
acceleration comes. They accelerate or decelerate depending on their need and their ability. So we find some children they can eat maths for breakfast. You know,
Yeah.
instead of having they have alphabet soup for breakfast and
Yeah.
paint by numbers all the time. So what we're saying is that we need to have more individualized education.
Okay.
Like you're saying, with 80 students in a class, there's no way, even 40. There's no way that you can have individualized education.
So as a
the
parent,
nice thing,
yeah.
is ACE has got that individualized system and it's modularized. So,
So
you don't
as a
lose
parent,
out.
do I now send my kids to a Christian school because I'm also a Christian? Or do you think it's necessary or not necessary?
Well, look, the thing is, like as Newton was saying,
Yeah.
he's got the 15-year-old month
Yeah.
baby. And because these children, they grow up, so the 15 months is just about like a 15-year-old now.
Yeah.
And know how to use a computer already, and they can swipe
It's true.
and
It's
watch.
true.
It is, it's
So,
crazy
but
stuff.
is my children
But-
going to
but-
get better value in a
Well,
Christian school than in a
put it-
government school? Well, in regard to, because you spoke now about the way they teach, right? It's like
Yes.
you've got these pillars where you're focusing on the academics and then you also focusing
Yes.
on this. So
Exactly. You need to focus.
is there any way that I can't get that balance in a government school? Do I have to send my children
Okay,
to
that's
a
a-
Christian school?
Remember that South Africa is a secular country. So
Yeah.
technically, every government school is a secular institution,
Okay.
Okay.
meaning that they don't punt any one religion. It's basically secularized, as they say.
Yeah.
But one of the privileges we've got in our country still is that you can still have religious schools. I call it religious schools because you've got
Yeah.
Muslim schools, Jewish schools,
Yeah.
That's true.
Christian
Yeah,
schools,
yeah.
which is a great advantage in
Yeah.
our constitution.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we have to understand that we are also a three-part man. So if I go to a secular school or any other school that's not punting the religious side or the Christian side in our
Yes.
case, then I'm really just sending my child to get educated in academics
Yeah.
and also educated in physical, like rugby, soccer,
Yeah.
etc. But if you send them to a biblical, sound biblically based school,
Yeah.
they will also bring in that spiritual factor, and they will lighten up or liven up or at least educate your spiritual man. So you're going to have a child that comes out that's educated in all parts. So that's
So
what's
you're
important.
talking about so we're talking about the ACE system
As
in a
well-
sense
yeah.
of the curriculum, the
Yes,
system
yes.
that's it's an international system.
Yes, yes.
It's all over the world, and it's a system you're very familiar with, Pastor
Yes,
Wayne. So
yes.
you were bringing in the personalized. It's what you're
Yeah,
calling
personalized system of
it.
instruction. yeah.
Personalized. What in
Yeah.
a sense of does that give me as a parent, and how does that benefit the child? And
Okay.
then also, obviously, it's a Christian system. So what sort of Christian values do they get that they're not going to get in a public school? Because
Yeah.
technically, I don't really need to send my child to a Christian school to become
Yeah.
a Christian.
No, not necessary. No.
Or
But the interesting thing is, if you take the amount of time
Yeah.
that a child spends outside of your hands, at school, for example, they spending 6 to 7 hours a day
Okay.
in that environment. Now, if the
big
environment,
chunk of their life.
it's a
Yeah.
big
It's a
chunk
big
of their life.
chunk of their
So now
day.
you get home, you're in a rush, as you say, you're both
Yeah.
working. You say, hi, how's it going? And sign the homework book
Okay.
or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're on your way. Then the church gets hold of
Yeah.
them for 1 hour, children's church. Or, so it's okay, well, hopefully they can fix them
Yeah.
up. So I think the main
On a
thing
Sunday.
Is, yeah, and I think it's like, what are you feeding?
What
Okay.
about
You know, how much
affordability?
food? The?
Affordability, because a lot of the Christian schools are private schools.
Yes,
And
that's
a lot
right,
of the
yeah.
big points with me sending my child to a public school is because it's affordable. So how do I bridge the gap between I want my child to be taught values and then still be able to afford that?
Look, that most of our Christian schools are they are private.
Yeah.
But I must say, in the private sector, within that private sector, they are reasonably priced. I mean, we've seen at our own school in Alberton and the one in Modderfontein that we are over, we find that our prices are still very affordable, which is
Okay.
important.
And in terms of
Yeah.
education on the ACE side, in terms of what ACE is giving, what sort of standard, what sort of quality in terms of ACE
Well,
system,
Yeah.
being a Christian-based
Yeah.
system, what
Yes.
sort of quality?
Well, it's internationally benchmarked. If you have a look at the type of the work that's in there, the curriculum,
Yeah.
and also what's nice is the curriculum is not changing every 5 minutes. You know,
Okay.
now we chase outcomes based. Then we on CAPS curriculum, and it's all that type of thing. Which we are CAPS aligned, but the foundation is very sound.
Yeah.
The academics is very sound, and also being in this for many years, we can see that our graduates. I always say that if you want to measure anything, you just measure the outcome.
The outcome,
You
yeah.
don't
Okay.
actually. The process is in the proof of the pudding.
Yeah, the proof
is
of
in
the
the
pudding is in
pudding.
the
That's
eating.
the
So
one. And I mean, if I look at the amount of graduates and students that have come out of our schools,
Yeah.
and also schools nationwide, I mean, the quality is amazing, especially academic quality.
Yeah.
The guys are not like, can't add 1 + 1.
Yeah.
But again, we must also understand that each child is an individual and they
Yeah.
all got different strengths. So to go and measure somebody that wanted to become a motor mechanic and now you're trying to measure them on a science experiment, you know what's going to happen.
yeah.
It's going to smoke and fire.
So is that where the ACE benefits an individual?
Yes, because then that individual can progress at their own,
Okay.
you can at their own speed and also at their own level of intellect where they are
Yeah.
at. And also remember, emotional maturity is very important as well.
Yeah.
Because we always say IQ, but there is that emotional factor that you can only perform as strong as where your emotions are. And you'll find that many children only mature a bit later and then they
Okay.
start performing. So I think that look, overall, I think academics is what we measure most of the learners with. Unfortunately, there are some that are brilliant with sports, brilliant with arts. And I think that the diversity in education is a concern.
Does our school cater for that though, Pastor Wayne? In terms of, like you said,
What do you mean
we're
our school?
as in,
Now you're talking very,
yeah.
very specific. Who's
yeah.
our school?
Yeah, our school. So, should I mention where I'm
ACE?
from? Yeah. Well, and when I mean our school, I'm talking in terms of Christian education now.
I think for all the
Because
viewers at home,
Yeah.
Mac is a teacher,
I'm an HOD.
HOD,
Yeah,
and
head
a
of
teacher.
department for the foundation phase. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's in the educational field
Yes.
and goes to an ACE school, and
Cool.
that's why we're talking about ACE
ACE school.
Yeah.
specifically,
Yeah.
Alberton Christian Academy.
Oh.
So I'm actually out
Yeah.
way here, but
Yeah.
educational
Yeah.
people.
So the question I'm asking now, as a parent, right? Like as you're saying, let's say I have a child that's not specifically academic, but how, is the system catering for those that are not academic and such? And say my child is good in artwork, like
Yes,
she's
yes.
very good in design, but give
Yes.
her a maths book and she's completely confused.
Look,
But give her a drawing,
Yeah.
coloring pen. Man, she's phenomenal. She wants to be an art designer, fashion designer
Yeah.
one day. And I cannot for the life of me fathom why maths is just not a.
no, now you know
Because I'm
why.
thinking, but don't you know? Yeah. So, and sometimes she feels frustrated. The other day she tells me, but this first time I'm scared for my maths because it's getting harder. But I'm like, you put a paper in front of her, she doesn't think twice. She just draws you anything. And so I thought,
That's it.
but now how's this system catering for my child in the long run in terms of when she's done? Because all I see is she's now thinking less of herself because she's worried about the maths.
Yeah, good point. What do you mention?
So my question is, are we
Look, I think
catering for that?
Yeah, we are. You know, there are subjects that they can do in art.
Yeah.
But I think that the nice thing about the individualized education and the self-paced education
Yeah.
is that they don't have to sit there and be finished with their maths on Friday.
Okay.
And they can take a little bit longer in math. And also they got their subject choices. Well,
What
look,
is
in a
it?
summary, the AC system, for those that, just in a nutshell, it's accelerated Christian education.
Yeah.
So the accelerated part is, I like to call it as individualized. It's a
Okay.
very individualized system. So it's actually a personalized system of instruction, which is individualized. Each student will have their own modules.
Yeah.
They will pace themselves at their own speed, depending on their emotional maturity and the
And the
intellect.
difference between that and the public school would be
You're all
the-
together.
The public school, you're in a class with a whole lot of kids and you go according to what the teacher.
That's
so it's
it.
a bit
Yeah.
lockstep.
It's all lockstep. and
Whereas
you-
AC is not
Yeah,
lockstep.
no.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can have somebody that's struggling a little bit on X plus X.
Yeah.
So they can take a week on that, and another person X plus X, it hits them, and they go through it.
Yeah.
The nice thing about ACE is it's modularized and it's self-learning and then we got facilitators that will help them, which we call supervisors. But when they get to the end of those concepts in a module, which is a PACE, a packet of Christian accelerated education, that's what they say, PACE. Then, but the nice thing in that in that packet is that it's goals. It gives you outcomes. It gives you your concepts that you're going to learn, and it gives you character traits, Christian character traits, and a Bible verse, which is your golden thread right through. So you're getting the spiritual man educated in that same book. You get your intellectual man educated in that same book, and you get your emotional person also educated in that same book. So that's what's wonderful. It's actually a 3-part educational system in one book. Then there's 3 tests that are in the book, which you call checkups. Eventually there's a self-test, which checks all the work. That's continuous assessment. And then at the end of that PACE, the student must get 90% because they mastery. We work on mastery. So you can't just say, let's get 30.
So the quality
30%.
in terms of your pass rate is very
pass
high.
mark,
Pass
it's
mark
very
is
high because you're mastering that concept. So you might take 2 weeks to do it, and somebody else can master it in a week. But you have to master it before you move on.
So in other words,
So
you'll
you don't
never
have
move
gaps.
on with gaps, with learning gaps in between, because
That's your biggest thing.
because I know once they do a PACE test, they conference them the next day, because in case I got 1 or 2 questions wrong, so I'll always know what was it before I move
That's
on.
it.
Yeah.
Pastor,
So,
and another
yeah.
benefit I think of ACE is the ratio. Is that like a set in stone for an ACE system, like your student
sort
to
of-
teacher ratio?
It's not really set in stone, but it actually works itself out like that because to run the system, you got your academic side and you got your administrative side. So we have a supervisor, which is your teacher, your qualified teacher, and then you'll have a monitor.
But to
which can
benefit the person
assistant.
at home, it's the ratio is
is
very-
always small.
is
It's
small,
12
so
to 1.
12 kids to
Yeah.
one staff member. So
maybe
you're
up
getting
to
a lot more
15 at the worst
personalized
case.
education.
Yeah, personalized.
One-on-one.
And also what's nice about it, your teachers are, they get to know you. You don't have 200 kids coming through and you know the naughty ones and you know the good ones. Everybody in between gets lost. You make a personal relationship with each child. Each child you know, each parent you will know as well. So it becomes alive, and it becomes relational. And I think that's what we need in our country. And not only our country, in education, even amongst each other. We need relationships. One of the most important factors is relational learning. So let's call it relational learning, and I think that's important.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.